This video is for business leaders who want themselves or their reports to be more successful and be able to use self-control and willpower to increase their performance and effectiveness. So it may surprise you to find something that as unsexy as willpower is actually has overwhelming scientific evidence as a predictor of being the cause of success and resulting in success. Also, people with the least self-control are the least likely to be successful. Might seem obvious, but you know what? It's not so obvious because there's a lot of things going on like atomic habits, which say that if you don't feel like doing it, well, it's okay. Well, that's actually not what the literature says, not the larger body of literature about this subject. So have you ever heard of the Radish Experiment? If you haven't, stick around to the end of this video, and that's the bonus material. I'll let you know about the Radish Experiment, which is quite famous. It was done by the author of the book which inspired this video, which was Willpower by John Tierney and Roy Baumeister. Excellent book, I recommend it. And what's important about that experiment is not that it's just a cool and interesting experiment, but what it can teach us about how to more effectively use self-control and in fact, what self-control is. It wasn't what people thought it was until this experiment happened. So it's interesting because around 36 different personality traits were measured in a different experiment, and only self-control predicted a student's GPA better than chance, IQ, or SAT scores. So that gives you an idea how predictive it is of performance. So in 2010, there was another study in New Zealand where they tracked 1,000 New Zealanders from birth to 32 years old. So it was basically a longitudinal experiment with 1,000 subjects. And they got reports from the parents, the teachers, and the individuals themselves. So they had 3 different perspectives, so it's a lot more reliable. And what they found was the people who had the most self-control as assessed by all 3 groups were on average richer, had better jobs, were healthier, were in more stable marriages, least likely to have become single parent families in either direction, had fewer alcohol or drug problems. And this was all even after controlling for wealth, social status, and race. So that was taken out of the equation, and these things were still there. So how can you have more willpower? Firstly, save it, because as you'll find out later, you don't have unlimited willpower. You have a finite amount of willpower, and you may be surprised to find out what the main component of willpower is. It's simple, but not obvious. So what you want to do is you want to save it for emotionally charged situations, because willpower or self-control is most needed in situations which are new, mentally challenging, and or emotionally charged. So if you're in a situation, if there's a one-time thing you need to do, like firing somebody, which as the boss, you probably already know, is not necessarily an easy task. It's shockingly stressful and mentally draining on you, the boss, as much as, if not more than, the employee that you're letting go. So if you're going to do that, there's a few things you can do. You can do it early in the morning, obviously pay them for the rest of the day, let them leave immediately. But by doing it first thing in the morning, you're well rested. You haven't already been mentally taxed. Your self-control is normally the highest in the morning after you've had a good night's rest and you're relaxed and all those kind of things. After lunch, so you've had a chance to relax, you've had something to eat. Or if you can't do it either of those times and you have to wait to the end of the day, rest for like maybe 30 minutes or so. Do nothing, or do a really easy non-taxing task to build up your energy and your willpower before doing it. But I recommend first thing in the day is probably the best one. Pay the day's wages and just let them go. It's better for you, it's better for them. So if it's an ongoing task, like a new project or something that you're doing, then it's actually better to do it every day for a shorter time than to marathon and say, okay, on Friday, I'm going to crush this, or even today, I'm going to do all of this so I can get it out of the way. Well, the marathon sessions usually aren't as effective because it's new and challenging. Your self-control will falter a lot faster. And by breaking it up, you're giving yourself smaller challenges more frequently, which are going to be more sustainable over the week or over time. And the more challenging the task is, the more truer this is going to be. So if you've made it this far, congratulations for watching to this point. As promised, I'll tell you about the Radish Experiment. So this was done by Baumeister, the author of the book Willpower, John Tierney and Tierney, and Roy Baumeister wrote the book that inspired this episode, which I believe I already said. And what they did is they made some chocolate chip cookies in a room at a college or a university, and they had a bowl of radishes and a bowl of delicious freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. They assigned students to one of two groups. One was the radish group, one was the chocolate chip cookie group. The cookie group could only eat the cookies, the radish group could only eat the radishes. So they left them alone in the room. Of course, they were watching through a small window, but they left them alone in the room for a period of time. And basically it was like, you're allowed to eat your assigned food, but not the other food. Obviously, it was more tempting harder to not eat the cookies than it was to eat the radishes. The cookie group had no problems just eating the cookies and resisting the radishes. The other one, it seemed to be more challenging, but believe it or not a single one of the radish group ate a cookie. Some of them even smelled them, but they didn't eat them. So that's pretty interesting. So what they did next is they said, okay, we're going to do a new experiment. This is a cognitive experiment. It's separate. Here's a puzzle. It's a geometric puzzle, which unbeknownst to the group, both groups, was impossible to solve. And they says, look, do your best job of trying to solve this geometric puzzle, but being impossible. They didn't know that. They said, look, work on this for as long as you want to try to solve it. If you solve it, great, you can go. And if you work on it for a while and you don't want to work on it anymore, if you want to quit, no problem. So work on it as long as you want and no longer. Just do your best on it. So interestingly, the cookie group, they lasted on an average of 19 minutes, whereas the radish group lasted only 8 minutes. So why would that be? Well, it's because the radish group used up their willpower resisting the cookies. And it turns out that blood sugar or glucose is what our willpower is, generally speaking, made of. If you have low blood sugar, surprise, surprise, you're likely to be more grumpy or have less self-control over whatever you want, less willpower over whatever you're trying to resist. So that means willpower is finite and gets used up as we burn up that sugar. So if something is new or challenging in your business, make it the first priority of the day and the only priority of the day. It's like these videos every day is pretty damn challenging. It's the only one thing I need to do all day above my other basic tasks. And I do it every day. So it's a habit, but it's not easy. And that's why I usually do it from the first thing in the day and the only thing. Until that's done, I don't do anything else. Or you can do it, immediately after lunch, but it's better to do it first thing in the day. If it's an ongoing thing like I'm doing, make it a habit. By making it a habit, you actually use less willpower. How much willpower do you need to brush your teeth? Right? It's just easy because you do it every day. So anything that becomes a habit consumes less glucose and less willpower. So more willpower is left over for doing other challenging things that are unexpected or somehow mentally, emotionally challenging. And then, let's see, habit and only one. And that's the other thing, do only one new habit at a time. If you try to do more than one, you're far more likely to fail at both. So stick to one new habit. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. This has been Crush It Club 196. Create Success Using Willpower, inspired by Willpower by John Tierney and Roy Baumeister. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.